Good morning, Southeast Baptist Church. Welcome to our Bible study today. We're going to be in Exodus chapter 20 and Psalm 37. And I'd like to invite you to turn to these two passages with me this morning. And as we look at these two passages, I want to ask you a question. Who has been an example of personal integrity in your life? If you're with someone, I'd love to invite you to turn to them and just share their name. You won't interrupt me. I won't be distracted by you doing that. Who has been a person of integrity in your life? Who has modeled that? Who's been an example of personal integrity? Now, I don't know if you've ever seen one of these. If not, maybe later today you could get on YouTube and search it out or look it up. But I want to try to paint a picture in your mind today. I want to ask you to imagine watching a building implode, or maybe watching a controlled demolition of a building. You know, one minute the building is standing nice and strong, and the next it's a pile of ashes and rubble. You know, in a controlled demolition, you have experts placing explosive in strategic locations, and then the very next second they push a button, and all of a sudden that building just comes straight down, not even affecting any of the buildings around it, hopefully, right? You know, the structural integrity of our lives is very similar to this idea of a building being demolished, this implosion. You know, it only takes a split second for our relationships to implode, to come tumbling down in a pile of rubble and ashes. You know, one lie, one slanderous accusation, one wrong choice. The Ten Commandments provide a solid foundation for ensuring that this structural integrity of our relationships stays strong. Today we're going to look at the last three commandments, and we're going to focus on the kind of character that we should have as children of God. You know, when we began this study, we met God on Mount Sinai, giving the Israelites the Ten Commandments, and in that we said that God was interested in two things. He was interested in instructing man on their relationship with Him and their relationship with others. So I want to invite you to read with me Exodus chapter 20. We're going to begin in verse 15 and read verses 15 and 16. Look at with me what these verses say. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Now, these are pretty straightforward. You shouldn't steal, and you shouldn't bear false witness against somebody, right? Now, if we look at these two verses, one of the things that I would like to challenge you to think about is two words: integrity and commitment. You know, if we were in a classroom right now, I'd love to invite you to come forward, and over on this wall we have the word integrity written, and over here we have the word contentment, and get you to just kind of jot down on a piece of paper or write on a sticky note what is integrity, what is contentment. I want to share a passage or a story this week with you. It's a story that I read, and I've kind of modernized it. Just it was kind of a little bit outdated for 2020. But I want to share this story with you. You know, a pastor went to a store to buy a few things, and when he got to his car, he noticed that the cashier had given him a little too much change. He received more than he was supposed to receive. Noticing this, he gets up, he goes back into the store, and he gives the cashier the money, and he says, "Excuse me, I just wanted to bring this back to you. You've given me too much change." Now, I want you to just kind of pause and ask yourself, how many times has a scenario like this happened where you went to a store, you went somewhere, and someone gave you too much change? What did you do in that situation? Well, in this story, the pastor goes back in and gives the cashier this change, and the rest of the story kind of plays out like this. The cashier smiles at the pastor and says, "You know, Pastor, I really appreciate this. I visited your church this last week, and I heard your sermon on honesty. So I intentionally gave you too much change. I gave it to you on purpose. I just wanted to see if you live what you preach." You know, the moral of this story is we never know who's watching. We never know who's listening. Those of us with children know this all too well. You know, our children see things, they hear things, sometimes not so pleasant, sometimes they catch us having a bad day in a moment of weakness, and they see something that we're not proud of, and then they emulate it, they model it, we hear those same words out of their mouths, and the kick in the gut that we feel, right? The heartache that comes with that. I'd like to ask you a question a minute about these two verses as we move on. You know, if we're talking about not stealing and not bearing false witness about a neighbor, how can we obey these two commandments when we're interacting with other people on social media? Or maybe how can we obey these two commandments and still be people of integrity? Why is it even important to be people of integrity? I want to share with you quickly a couple of verses. Matthew chapter 5, verse 37 says, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no." John chapter 13, verse 35 says, "By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." You know, above all else, we need to be people of integrity, because when we are, we bring glory to God. Galatians 2:20, a verse that I learned a long time ago, says, "I have been crucified with Christ, and it's no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live by flesh, or in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and who gave himself up for me." Living a life of integrity means modeling the type of life we're supposed to live through our thoughts, our words, and our actions. And those things that we're modeling, we see in Christ. As we do this, we're able to advance his kingdom agenda here on earth. We're able to bring glory and honor to Christ. And we're able to reflect Christ to other people. These are very important things. Look with me at this next commandment. Exodus chapter 20, verse 17 says, "You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male servant, or his female servant, or his ox, or his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor." Now, I don't know about you, but I've never coveted anyone's ox or their donkey. But I have to tell you, sometimes I've had that thought. You drive by a nice house, you drive by and pull up in the church parking lot, or at your work, the grocery store, and you park next to a nice car, nice truck for me. You got to work really hard, right? Sometimes. I remember taking in college marketing and advertising, and I took a lot of business classes once upon a time, and I remember doing that and being reminded this week how advertisers spend a lot of money and a lot of time tempting us to be dissatisfied. They make people discontent enough, then they want to go buy their stuff, buy their products. The idea of contentment is knowing that God has met our needs and being grateful for what he has given to us. A picture of contentment is being just as happy driving an old, reliable car as you are driving a brand new car. Being content is being content living in a small house or a small apartment, just as content as if you were living in a 4,000 square foot house. Or maybe it's being content just in, eating a hot dog, that God's provided you food as opposed to eating a steak. Philippians 4, chapter 11 and through 13, another passage I learned a long time ago. Paul writes the secret of being content. He says, not that I speak from want, for I've learned to be content in whatever circumstances I have. I know how to get along with humble means. I also know how to live in prosperity. And in any circumstance, in any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both of having abundance and suffering need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. You know, everything that we have comes from God. Wanting more is being ungrateful. It's kind of like throwing it right back in God's face, saying, yeah, that ain't good enough. You know, I was reminded as I was studying our lesson, you remember being a kid, ripping into a present you're so excited about getting on Christmas or on your birthday, you know, and watching my kids today and their eyes light up when they see those presents under the tree, or they see, you know, their friends coming into a birthday party, and here's the presents as mom sets them out around. My wife's so good at setting, you know, and setting stuff out and getting great pictures, you know, those kinds of things. You see the excitement in kids' face, and they start ripping into the presents, right? And they start ripping it off, and they don't even know who it's from. They're just so excited to be ripping into it, and you can see it all over their face. They can't wait to get it open, and then they open the box, and it's a pair of socks, a pair of underwear, clothes, right? They're so let down by that. You know, they may say, thanks, Mom, you know, or thanks, Grandma. They say thanks, but you can see it in their face. You can hear it in their voice. They're so dissatisfied with what they were given. I think sometimes we're that way with God, aren't we? God's giving us food. He's giving us hot dogs. But man, we see the next neighbors. You know, we're sitting out on the back porch eating hot dogs, and we hear our neighbors grilling, and we can smell the steak. And we look at our hot dog and think of that steak next door and think, man, you know, I mean, those are the things we're talking about here with contentment. Being satisfied with what God has given to us. Let's take a look for a minute at Psalms. Let's look at David. Let's look back at David and see kind of what David had to live with. Kind of what David dealt with. We're going to look at Psalm 37. Verses 1 through 6. Look at these with me. Do not be agitated by evildoers. Do not envy those who do wrong, for they wither quickly like grass and wilt like tender green plants. Trust in the Lord and do what is good. Dwell in the land and live securely. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you your heart's desires. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him, and he will do it. And he will bring forth your righteousness as the light, and your judgment as the noonday. You know, when we look at these verses here in Psalms chapter 37, verses 1 through 6, it's very important to recognize a few things that he's saying here to us. You know, we don't need to be agitated by these things, right? We need to, you know, look at what David does here. He captures this idea, the heart of the commandment, don't covet. You know, the very first thing that David does is we have to recognize, I guess I'm trying to get these ideas in my head straight. It's first of all, David first of all recognizes this idea of I know what it means to covet, you know? I mean, David knew what it meant to covet, didn't he? We talked about a little bit of that last week. He's had personal experience with coveting. He coveted another man's wife. He also was on the receiving end. You know, Saul coveted David's favor that he had with God and with other people. Saul was jealous. Saul wanted what he had. He didn't like that his people were singing songs greater in David's favor than in his. If you look at what David does here, he begins by reminding us not to envy those who do wrong. It's not easy, or it's easy to envy those who do wrong, isn't it? You seem to, you know, you look at someone who does something wrong and who seems to get everything they want. You know, I think the idea here that David's pointing out and that God's pointing out is we shouldn't be looking at other people in the first place. We ought to keep our eyes on God and what God has given us and just be thankful and be trusting God for his provision, whether it's a hot dog or a steak. Whether it's a 2006 Ford, like I drive, or a 2020 Ford, maybe a 2020 Chevy or Dodge or GMC or whatever it is that you drive, right? All we could ever desire is found in God. My question as we lead this passage in verse in Psalms 37, verses 1 through 6 is really looking at it saying, how would you summarize this passage? Kind of a question that popped in my mind. How would you summarize what David is saying here in Psalms 37, 1 through 6? If you'll bear with me, I'd love to share a personal story with you. Something that's actually God reminded me of this week, and this lesson really speaking to me about it. I've worked in the school district that I've worked in now for 5 years. I think it's my 6th year. I've come from another school district where I was there for 3 years, and I really kind of was on the leading side of helping a group of teachers were brought together, and I was one of those, and we were building and leading an innovative program, something like has never been seen in the state of Oklahoma before, and it was doing well, and we were doing well, and everything was going great in that district, and I was a leader. I was out in front. I was recognized as a leader. If I went somewhere, they're like, "Hey, I know him. Look, he's over there," and there was that kind of recognition in it. I worked for a very good leader, a strong leader who led well and was a good mentor to me personally and to others. And so you were able to learn new things and get to new places. And along with that, we had that opportunity to lead and to teach other districts, other schools, other leaders in other schools how to do what we had done, how to just kind of model that. And then I came to the school district I'm at, and it was like starting at the bottom all over again, as if nothing I had done in the past mattered. Sometimes we want that recognition, we need that recognition, or we think we do. I've struggled with that, just to be real honest with you. I get to lead within a team that doesn't on the outside look as if there's any leadership, any leader, because it's a team of leaders, to be real honest. And we're in an industry where some are always jockeying to get to the next rung, and that's been a struggle for me. We don't need to worry about other people's and their accomplishment. Really, we just need to keep our eyes on God in the first place. It's normal, isn't it, though, to look at others. It's normal to want those things, we think, but normal isn't always healthy, is it? Normal isn't what God has called us to. God's called us to live an abnormal lifestyle. It's a different lifestyle. It's a higher standard that God has set for us. And the challenge is to give God our hearts by giving Him our allegiance. And then we seek to please God and watch God open up the doors for us and watch God reveal and show us new things and give to us. Can I ask you a question as we wrap up today? When have you experienced for yourself God's commands and how they're good for your life? Thinking back of all the verses we've been looking at, how can we help each other to focus on God as the answer to all of our desires? I think about in these settings when I came to my school district, kind of think of it. In my mind, I remember talking to people saying, I compared it like someone in the military. Not that I've ever served in our military, and very grateful to those who have. But I think about, how in the military you work your way up through the ranks, right? And your rank is on your sleeve, and you wear this uniform that shows your rank, shows your accomplishments, your ribbons that you've earned. And as you're transferred from one troop, one platoon, one group to another, they don't come and strip the stripes off of your arm or take your ribbons off. You go there with the same rank, and yet in business, it's not always like that, is it? In the industry that I work in, it's not always like that. Sometimes you got to start all over again. Sometimes you got to build up, and you got to build that new reputation. You got to build trust. You got to do those things. And sometimes it gets really hard. And if you're like me, we start just wanting, why can't we just pick up where we left off? The reality is we need to just keep our eyes on God and just trust God. Let me ask you a question as we close. How can we actively seek to live a life of integrity this week? Think about that a minute. How could we actively seek to live a life of integrity this week? What can you do? What can I do? And then, how can we be content with all we have? I'd like to challenge you to do something this week. There's a verse that I came across this week. It's 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 8. Listen to what it says. And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. Think about that. God is able to bless you abundantly, whether it's giving you hot dogs or giving you steak. He's able to bless you abundantly by giving you transportation, whether it's older transportation or a brand new vehicle. He's able to bless you by giving you a roof over your head, whether it's an old, small house that you're bumping into people everywhere because it's just too small, or if it's a 4,000 square foot house where technically a family of four can never see each other in. Being content and living a life of integrity helps us to be more like Christ. And that's the challenge for us today. Why don't we just let that kind of be the end of this lesson? Seek to live a life of integrity. Be content with all you have. And remember, God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. Let's pray. Father, thank you for the opportunities that you have given us in this study as we've looked at these 10 commandments. And Father, I pray that you would guide us and that you would lead us, and that you would help us to put into practice the things that we have heard and the things that we have learned. Help us to be content with everything that you have given us. Help us to live a life of integrity around those things that you have taught us. Help us not to covet. Help us not to take things that don't belong ours or don't belong to us. Help us to think on the things that Christ would think on. Help us to live our lives in a way that brings glory and honor to you and that pleases you in all things. Father, we love you, and we bless you, and we ask you to watch over us this week. All these things we ask in your name. Amen. I look forward to seeing you again next week as we talk about wrapping up this series. Please watch. Hope that if you're not here personally, that you would tune in and that you would continue to grow in your faith and in your understanding of Christ and what God has called us to. Continue to pray. Continue to trust in God. Continue to be content in all things, in all situations, where we are as individuals and where we are as a church, and seek to bring glory and honor to God. We love you, and we hope to see you again next week. Y'all have a great week.